Today marks one that Bourbon County, a Bourbon County woman always hoped would come. A homecoming for Stanley Owsley, who was killed 80 years ago during the attack on the USS Oklahoma in Pearl Harbor.
Now, after decades of his family wondering where his remains were, we learn more about his story as he's brought back home. LEX 18's Austin Pollock spoke with his great niece, who, even though she never met him, speaks about him like she did.
He's always been the family hero. We've always cherished his memory. My grandmother was very close to him.
Stanley Owsley, born in 1918 and grew up on a farm in Bourbon County. He enlisted in the Navy shortly after he turned 18. His great niece, BJ Linville Short, says according to his application, he intended to make a career out of serving in the Navy. It was December 7th, 1941, when the USS Oklahoma was hit multiple times in Pearl Harbor.
So we've kind of always carried Stanley with us, even though we didn't know him.
Short says it was a few weeks later when Owsley was considered missing in action. Less than 2 months later, he was considered killed in action. His older sister, Marietta Linville, often considered her and Owsley the closest because they were just about 2 years apart.
And we always knew she wanted to bring him home.
For decades, they hoped at least one day he could come home to Paris so most of his family could welcome him home. In May of 2020, Marietta Linville passed away at 104 years old. Just a few months later, Owsley's remains were identified.
We initially thought about just burying him in Hawaii with his shipmates, but because he was so close to my grandmother and we knew this is what she would have wanted.
And Thursday, he was brought to his final resting spot next to his older sister.
It does bring us peace, and to know that we were able to bring him back to be with her. I can't imagine not knowing where your loved one was for all those years.
As his great niece said, "Nanny, we brought him home." In Paris, Austin Pollock, LEX 18 News.